Hi, ladies. Welcome to another Encouraging Women podcast for all of you. We're still busy homeschooling for him. So today is actually, I'm saying homeschooling for him, and it's actually a good thing for me to say this because uh, a very important topic that we are going to work on today, or we are going to discuss today, is are we homeschooling for him? But before we go into that, I just wanted to give you a little appetizer. I just want to introduce my two guests or let them introduce themselves. Erin and Adina is here with me. Erin, if you just want to say hello.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about Are You Homeschooling for Him, our topic.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
after 20 years of homeschooling and now encouraging my own children
Mm.
with their homeschooling and my grandchildren talking to them about homeschooling, I think this is just a privilege to be part of this. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Adina?
Yes, I'm also very excited to be back because I really enjoy the subject and just talking about it and how he's leading us on this
Yes.
journey of homeschooling for him.
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So let's start with the topic, right? But I first want to just say something like the last two podcasts that we've had, we were talking about how the government influences what we teach and all of that. And when Erin came and she spoke about, are you homeschooling for him? Or, and I think the words that you used were like, or are you homeschooling for the government? It really made me think. It really made me like, just take a look back and see how much I sometimes worry about what would the government say, what would happen here, what would happen there, you know. And it really made me think. And this week, I really have been sitting with him, asking him. So instead of me asking, what does the government want me to do here or here or here, let me ask you, you know, let me ask the children's father, what the heavenly father, I mean, now, is what to ask him, you know, what is it that you want to do? And then just trust that everything else will fall into place. So, Erin, I would love to hear what your thoughts were on that when, you know, when you mentioned this, because something must have clicked in you from our previous discussions. So please, I'm giving it over to you now.
Thank you. Well, it was just one of the conversations that I was sitting afterwards and thinking about it and thanking him for it and just hoping that it would get to the right people, and not just the people within our ministry, but when they're listening to it, or even if they're not homeschooling, that they know people that are and say, oh, you need to listen to this, you know, and it would just maybe open the door for them to know him in a deeper way, as a friend first, as you know, falling in love, husband, whatever you need. And so we were just sitting in, you know, like I always do, and I have conversations, and even my sons say, oh yeah, I was having a conversation with the Lord and I get to listen. And so we were having this conversation, and he was the one who posed the question, like in the next one, you know, like he said, are they homeschooling for him, you know, me, or are they homeschooling for the government? I thought, whoa, I don't know that I've ever thought of that, you know. I thought, yeah. And then I started thinking, whenever, well, you know, like you said, when you do that, all these things will be added unto you. I mean, the chapter that I'm writing now and working on the books, The Wise Man and the Wise Woman for teens, you know, their own version. You know, it brings you back to those basics. And one of the things is, you know, if you do this, if you put him first, all these things will be added unto you, everything. And so it's the same way in homeschooling. If it's for, I'm doing this for you, giving me this opportunity. And yes, we absolutely want to comply by the government. He's not going to have us. I mean, we know that from taxes, you know, I mean, we pay taxes, and he says, I'll provide it. Go down and here's a coin in the fish's mouth, you know, that sort of thing. So he'll take care of all that. And I just thought, wow, if we talk about this, and it's something that, you know, it doesn't need to be a religion, you know, that every day we have to make sure we tell them, okay, this is for you. What do you want me to do? That sort of thing, like you did. It's not something like that, but that is basically what your homeschool is from then that moment on. is doing it for him. And I just think it would become so much easier. And even though I said it because I'm radical, remember, I'm the Peter that jumps out of the boat and, no, don't wash my feet. Oh, wash all of me. I'm that. All right. But I was thinking, and maybe I even said it, okay, throw out your manuals, your teacher's manuals. That's what I was going to tell you, Adina. Throw out your teacher manual. Let him do it, but don't do that. Just talk to him about it, because I did, because even though I didn't actually think of it, am I doing it for the government? I never thought I was doing it for the government. One, because I didn't have a curriculum that I had to follow. Okay. So I was in a different situation, than both of you are in your country. But nevertheless, I was just, we did have Florida, where I started homeschooling, had pretty strict things. And I just felt overwhelmed, to have to comply with everything. And so, like I always do, and I was asking him, okay, how do I'm going to do that? Because you had to take sections of each of these subjects, and it has to be this. And so I just went to him because I just got too overwhelmed. And I said, how am I even going to do this, starting from scratch? And so the first thing I said, okay, so what do I do? First, Bible, that's what I'm going to do, Bible. So what are we going to do for Bible? And it changed all through the years, from us reading through the Bible was one of them, as a family, we read through the Bible 2 or 3 times. One son says it was 2 times, one son said it was 3. I have no idea, but we did it as a whole family, with the, listening and reading along, and did it in just a few months. And so anyway, we did that. And then, but it was always something, but then it went to the basics, reading, right? Because our nation, I don't know what's going on in South Africa, but around the world, is that they've gotten away from the basics,
Yes.
and I knew that. And so it was like, I went back, I'm old. And so it was reading, writing, arithmetic, and then the spelling. Well, if you're writing a lot, then you'll have to learn to spell rather than having spelling words. Because here's the thing, ladies, here's the confession from me. I could get straight A's on my spelling test, but my whole family knew Erin cannot spell. She cannot spell anything. So I knew that was not a measure of, are you going to be able to spell that word after? I could pass the test, but I couldn't spell. So anyway, I just went through all of those. And then he just started to fill in and giving me the curriculum for it and things. And so that was just how I did it. But to collect all this, all I thought is you're supposed to have this a sampling, a certain amount for each thing, each subject, and present that with the teacher evaluation at the end of the year. I thought, I can't do this. So, and I like everything organized. So I just put everything in a huge, I had these notebooks, those binders that are massive, they're like 3 inches, 5 inches thick. I don't know. They got bigger. I just said, put it all in there and we'll all everything. And then they were all like, wow, look at all this work. And it's all together, and I saved them, and I don't think anybody's ever gone through. But anyway, it was doing it because of what he, having him. So again, I'm in a different situation, but it made it so easy. It made it doable. And that's one of the things when new homeschool parents would come to hear. I said, do what's easy, just the transition, like you're in your first year, Adina. What's easy is, here it all is. Let's just follow it just like this. We have a school day, we have desks, we have a break, we have, it's just the transition from not sending them off. You want to make sure it's easy, but if you try too hard, and it becomes overwhelming, you could give up, and that's not what you want to do. His yoke is easy, his burden is light, take his yoke. So whenever it gets overwhelming, going to him and saying, obviously, I'm not yoked to you. I'm going to put you first. What do you want me to do? And I'm homeschooling for you. I'm homeschooling for him. And I think that would be a great to come back to that, just to relieve the moms who are doing something so wonderful for their children, mostly having them around, keeping them away from all of these other negatives and giving them a chance to grow up. I think it's just invaluable. So that's my input. But I'm very interested to hear both of you.
Yes. So Adina, I'll hear from you now. I just want to mention, Adina, also that first year that I started homeschooling, I must really confess that there were a lot of times where I was like, should we be doing this? Am I totally out of my depth here? Am I really fit to do this? So I had all of these things constantly that I was wondering, am I doing the right thing by homeschooling my children? So when you mentioned that, Erin, this came up. So Adina, what do you think about homeschooling for him, homeschooling for the government here in South Africa? What is he leading you?
Well, when he placed the desire mark, like I shared previously, this wasn't something previously before my journey started that I ever even thought about. But when he placed the desire mark, it was the desire to homeschool for him, and not because of any other reason, and to set my children apart. And then while I was waiting for it to happen and for him to work in my former husband's heart to let it happen, I got a lot of confirmation through the things that, I saw that they learned in school. My daughter that got bullied so much. The same with my son. So it was all these confirmations for me that my children must be taken out of school so we can homeschool for him. And the first term, I must admit, I tried to do everything according to the book and according to the teacher's guides and everything, but it only lasted, I think, the halfway through the first term. And then I thought, it's not gonna work, because I'm putting a big burden on myself. I'm putting a burden on my children to try and do it according to how it's prescribed. And then we just fell into our own rhythm of doing it as he leads. Yes, we do follow the timetable because it's all worked out already, but I don't look at the teacher or parent guides anymore. It's only to mark for them to go through their work and see and mark their work. But
I'm
for the
so
rest,
happy to hear that. I should have known.
I just follow his lead.
I should have known. I should have known you were doing that. But I'm kind of the mother of you all, and these are my grandchildren. I'm thinking, oh, she's probably overburdened. I've got to tell her, don't do it. Don't just, I was like, throw it out. But again, don't do that. You might need to reference it sometime. But I just didn't want you burdened. But here I'm, of course, that was silly of me. I know you better than that, but it's just good to hear. It's just, I'm very happy. That's wonderful to hear.
Yes, that's for sure. Wonderful to hear. And then also something that I wanted to touch on, a little story that I want to tell, and maybe you have some of your own, is that when I just started homeschooling the first year, we visited a friend of my son's grandmother, and her daughter-in-law is a teacher. And they were there at the time, and they were sitting around there, and she was telling me some stories about teaching and so on. And she mentioned something, and that just set my heart totally at rest. And I knew, no, we're going to be good. We're going to be fine, because she told this story about I think it was the Afrikaans subject, right? The subject of the languages. And she said some of the children are failing the subject because it's not all of their first languages. Like, here in South Africa, for those of you that don't know, we've got like 11 official languages. So
Wow.
Most children go to school in English, but so it hasn't changed yet, but Afrikaans is also a subject, whether it's your home language or not. So it is difficult for some children in school, especially the government schools. They are changing it now, but and I think they're going to make everything like English based. But for now, Afrikaans is still big in the schools, and some of the children that doesn't grow up Afrikaans, they are struggling when they come to school. But what she said is, she said, like, when they do bad in the subject, they need to pass the subject in order to go over to the next year. So what she does is, when they have like oral things and things like that, things that's not written, she gives them full marks for it in order for them to go to the next grade. And I was just laughing, and I was saying, as a teacher, you're doing that, I think we'll be good, you know.
Oh, that's
So
good.
totally, I felt
I
it
think
read
having
good.
that assurance, you know, and I know it's just him doing that, because
Yes.
you brought up, and I made notes on it, you know, am I able to do this? I
Yes.
think we need to remember, he gave the children to us, you know,
Yes.
and for us to trust that they're getting what they need. Well, the government schools, no government schools are really trying to teach the things of God, and they're not doing that. You know, even in Christian schools, it's not. It's geared towards education and learning and things. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's pales in comparison. And it's not like you're teaching Christian things or religious things all the time either. But I think who is going to, I always tell the parents, who cares about your children? Even the best teachers, you know, the very best teachers. And some of them are very good and they can motivate you. And it's a wonderful thing if you have something like that. But nobody's going to care about them like you do. There's no one. There is no one. And you're the adult and taking that responsibility. But once they get into that schoolroom, again, you brought up about bullying. You don't know who's doing that. You don't know if it's the teacher who likes them or doesn't like them. I had so many negative teachers against me. I mean, God used them for good, you know, they didn't damage me at all, you know. It was only good, but it does. I mean, my sister suffered from the third grade on. She had a teacher that was going through something, a personal situation, and she shared it with the children and they were traumatized from it.
Oh, no.
Yes. Oh, yes. Right after that, she got very heavy and she couldn't sleep and all sorts of things happened. My mother and father didn't know anything that was going on in that, you know, and she was dismissed after that year, but the damage was done. You just never know, you know?
Oh.
So, and I don't know why, since I knew all about that, that I didn't want to, you know, think about homeschooling earlier, but I didn't. We've already had that. You can go back to those other podcasts and see it. But I was glad that you brought that up, you know. So, and also I think trusting somebody who has a degree in something or an expert, some of them are not that good. You don't know what kind of grades they got. People cheat here all the time. Oh, they don't really even have a degree. What always matters is the heart, and the heart for a mother, for her children is he compares himself, you know, the Father, God compares himself, you know. I mean, how could you know, I mean, I'm like this, you know, a nursing, a mother with her nursing child, you know, that love. So there's nothing compare. I just won't hear of it, you know, and they can say, oh, well, they're a little illiterate, but an adult can learn to read in just a matter of weeks, you know?
Yes.
I mean, there are situations, but even then, getting around those. And if we ever want to talk about it, like, what do? I used to have teachers all the time who were full-time teachers and they wanted to homeschool. How can I do it? And I said, you can do it. Just, you know, do it with your children. I had so many. We had dozens of teachers that were homeschooling their own children. They would do it. They would assign things. Some of them went to their grandparents' house to do their work. They dropped them off and they just did their work there. Some, you know, hired tutors, older retired teachers. But a lot of them just did it at night. My one daughter, that's what she did. She would do night things and then she would be sleeping and they would be doing their work. When she'd get up, she'd check everything and answer any questions. And if it's in your heart, you can do it and it matters. And I think children seeing that, how much that matters and how much they're loved and how much they're going to do that, I think they'll appreciate always. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and
definitely. So yes, definitely. And while you were talking, I was also thinking when you were speaking about the teachers, thinking back, do any of us really say, gosh, I wish I'd spent more time with that teacher, you know? No, I think back to growing up and I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, I wish I could have spent more time with my mother, you know?
Yes.
And isn't that what our children have
I
now?
think
That's
this is,
time.
I think this is a great time to interject. And I know it's, how to really enjoy your children, love being a parent. But I think one of the lies that has been perpetuated is quality time and quantity time. Oh, quality time. I think it's messed up the whole motherhood, parents, fathers in just a horrible way, because one, oh, if I just have a little bit of quality time. And that quality time also turned into, like, when I always think of it as an absent parent, and I know both of you must have, had this, but when my children's dad was gone and he came back, he was constantly entertaining them, bringing them here, people buy gifts and do all these things. And all they want is more time with them. That's what they miss. It's not all of that. And so it just messes with what's true. And the true is spending time with them. When you're in love with somebody, and our children love us because we love them, and it's because he loved us that we love them in that way. But when you're in love with someone, you want to be with them all the time. And that's the way our children are from babies, and wanting to be with us. And what changes them is the dependency on peers and things. And they try and, that's enemy pulling them away. But having time and spending quantity time and all of those things. And yeah, there's more quality. Oh, you go on vacation or you do these big things, but mostly it's just the little things, and being together and being positive and happy, and, silly dancing, or, and I didn't sit down and play with my children either. I'm going to confess it. My children will tell you now, I don't. I never did, I never remember playing as a child, so I didn't know how to do it. I liked being busy and doing things. And but I loved seeing them play. And of course they had playmates because they had so many siblings. So, I didn't have to do it. But I think it's just being there, and them just knowing that I love them, and being around them, and being able to sing for me or perform, or how children do, or show me different things. They weren't constantly show me, because they knew if they interrupted too much, then I would get them busy working and cleaning or something. So they kept busy. We never got bored. No, would you ever bored? No,
No.
they'll stay outside. If I come in, oh, you could help me with this. No, I'm going to, no, I need you to do this, and I didn't let them get off, So it helped them to stay busy and entertain themselves, and nobody was ever bored. Anyway, can I ask a question too? Because I think I know the answer, but I'm not 100% sure. Adina, you said something about while you were waiting for your husband to let me do this,
Yes.
Didn't it come about because I think a lot that are waiting for that, their spouse is not, they don't want the homeschooling. There's been something I mean, because of, encouraging women and, putting that in, is ask your husband once. And if he says no, don't ask again. That's in Macy's Barn Cat.
Macy's Barn Cat.
Right. Don't. And it's the same way with the children. Teach them that, and you do the same thing. Ask him once, and then you can hound your heavenly Father all the time, and he's not bothered. And just say, I'm just trusting you, and when it's time. But I wanted to ask because most often it's during a crisis it happens. A lot of things that we're waiting for, not just in homeschooling. And I wanted to ask you because I think I know the story, but maybe it wasn't a crisis in your situation.
The homeschooling, I did ask him once. That was when the custody case started, and then he said no. So that's when I started to trust the Lord to make it happen. So that was why I said I waited. But there wasn't a crisis that changed his mind.
No. Oh, okay. I'm mistaken. I thought there was something that happened that made it made it for you to have to do it. So maybe you can just share, because it is going to happen different times, but I'm glad I asked, because I did thought that there was some sort of crisis where he wanted you because of, you know, financial, or I couldn't remember. So let you tell your story.
Sorry, I just I just had a cough there, sorry. Now, what happened was that I was just trusting the Lord and just asked him to work in my former husband's heart about it. And then I didn't speak to him again, because, like I said, you just ask once and then it didn't happen. But I just kept on asking the Lord to work in his heart. And then one day, out of the blue, when he came to fetch the children, he said that it was also because of he saw that he saw the curriculum and the things that was going on in the school. He said he changed his mind, and that he would like the children to be homeschooled, to get out of the system and everything that they are teaching the children, and just the things that happened with the children. So it's just the Lord that changed his heart about it regarding the
So he just
homeschooling.
opened his eyes to what they were learning and things like that. Well, that's
wonderful.
great, you know, because everybody's going to have a different testimony. And I think it's important to share all the testimonies to encourage those who are still waiting or concerned about it. And I think a benefit to waiting, you know, in the children's books. I mean, I'm learning it myself now, because as he's helping me to write to them, I'm learning it, but it's a superpower, you know. And my granddaughter and I are always talking about, oh, you have to wait, superpower, you know, we have to wait, this is good, you know, and to look forward to it. But you know, having to wait for it, you appreciate it so much more when it happens. You know, that's a built-in, you know, you're just like, wow. And when you're not the one. And it's not just, oh, we're being subservient, for those of you who are still, you know, trying to wean your way away from feminism and things like that, you know, oh, control, or why should I, and I need to put in my 2 cents. The thing is that when you have these things, a lot of times they just dig in their heels, you know, and it's going to take longer, you know, for your miracle. I think of it as giving birth, because it's a miracle, you know, that now I mean, it's night and day. Putting your, you know, having children in school and having them home with you all the time is absolutely wonderful, you know, and it's difficult too, just like a miracle, you know, babies aren't always easy, you know, but you know, the miracle I know from having midwives, you know, with the births, that if you push too soon, you know, you feel, I just want to have this baby, and you push too soon, it actually, I won't get into the graphics of it, I do know what it is, but it causes the birth to slow down, and you will actually, it will take you longer to recover from that if you don't just wait. They're very clear on that. All the midwives are, don't push until I say, just wait and let your body start to do it. And when that starts to go, then, and I even had one with my 3rd son where he said, don't you push, let your body doing it. And I just think of it, because the miracle of birth and how we were created and pulling this all in, and how God set up everything, those are spiritual lessons too. And so when we just let him totally do it, you're just in awe of it so much more without any effort. And I just think it's fascinating. And so I love hearing all the different stories. Did you already share your story, Yvonne? And I can't remember, from one of our earlier ones. Did you?
Yes. I did already share, but I do want to share something else. Adina, what you said about your daughter being bullied. I just want to say to the audience that some of you may say, yeah, but that was a public school. These things aren't going on in private
I'm going to
schools.
mute myself.
All
Okay.
right.
I have a
No
call
worries.
coming through. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
That these things aren't happening in private schools. So I just want you to give a little bit more on that, because Adina, I think if I remember correctly, your children was in a private school at that stage, right? And not just a private school, but supposedly a Christian private school. Am I
Yes.
right? So if you can just give a little more detail on that, if you can. I
Yeah.
don't know how much you want to share.
Yes, my daughter was, before the custody case, my children was in a public school.
Mm,
And there it already started to happen. It was mostly from the girls
mm,
that she got bullied. And then after the custody case, well, that was part of the custody case, is for them to live with their father and then to move over to a private Christian school.
mm,
And then the same happened, but this time it was more from the boys' side.
mm,
So
mm,
this, so it happened. I can't say that it didn't happen in a private school. It did, and it's
yes.
like I said, it's supposedly a Christian private school.
Yes, because in the end, the only one that has your child's best interest at heart is their Heavenly Father and us, right? So although there are wonderful teachers out there, please don't get me wrong, there are amazing teachers out there. No one will love your child like you do, right? So we have this little tradition from time to time when they come in the morning and they have something to share with me. And then I make coffee for them in the morning, and they would come and they would bring their coffee mugs, and we would sit on the bed and just talk about nothing and everything, and we would just sit there. And that's something that I think cannot be replaced by anything else, right? That's something that you cannot get, because if they go to school, I don't know how your mornings went when the children went to school, is that we were rushed to get to school in time. There was no time for anything else but to get up, get ready, and go to school. Now, we have some time together in the morning. We can have a chat and drink a cup of coffee sometimes, and, just enjoy our morning. So I don't know how your morning routine goes. I know sometimes, so for you, it's a bit different with the shared custody. Like, let me just explain the difference there as well for the ladies listening, is that my children goes to their dad every second weekend. So every second weekend, they go on a Thursday and they come back on a Monday morning. But the rest of the time, they're with me, they're homeschooling. But for Adina, it works a bit different. So maybe you would want to explain that, Adina, and show that doesn't matter what your circumstances is, right? He can do far more than you could ever imagine. So Adina, please.
Yeah, so currently we are basically on a week schedule. So they stay with me and sleep over at my place from a Monday to the next Monday. And then the following week, they are still with me during the day to homeschool, but then they go and sleep at their dad's place. So basically, yeah, that's also basically from the Monday to the Monday morning, the next Monday. And then they are with him 1 week. Yeah, that week they are with him over the weekend. And then when they sleep at my place, they're also with me over the weekend. So it's 7 days, 7 days. But I see them every day because.
Yeah, and that's nice, right? Isn't it a wonderful, yes.
Yes. So, but when they do sleep over at my place, we have a very, well, they have a very easy morning schedule. I get up a bit earlier than they do, just to have my time alone with the Lord. And then, when they wake up, I also make them coffee, but they don't come and sit with me. And like my daughter, she wants to start with the schoolwork immediately. That's just her thing. But my son likes to first do his own thing and then start his schoolwork. So that works for him.
Yeah.
And then when they'll sleep during the weeks that they do not sleep over at my place, their stepmom comes and drops them off at around 8 o'clock in the mornings. And then they are here until about 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay. You see, so the schedules are different for both of us, right? So it's different for us, it's different, and that could be different for anyone listening. It's like there's so many things that you can do, so many ways. If you just ask him, and it's like Erin said, homeschooling for him instead of homeschooling for the government. There's something else that came to mind that I want to share. And that was when I think Erin mentioned something about passing the subjects and all of that. So my son is in grade 10 this year, and the mathematics is extremely difficult. And we made a mistake of having him on the higher mathematics instead of just, making it light and easy for him on the ordinary mathematics, or the mathematics literacy, I think it's called. So he's been having a lot of trouble with the mathematics this year. And we've been talking about it, and we've been talking to his Heavenly Father. And for the first time in his life, he actually failed a subject, which was the mathematics. And it was such a shock to him, to be failing this. And we were talking about it, and I asked I went and I checked, and it doesn't seem that he even needs to pass mathematics in order to pass the year. And I said to him, you know what? I see no reason for us to get worried about this. Let's just leave it to your Heavenly Father. Ask him to give you the wisdom to do this. Work as hard as you can. Do what you do for him. And if you fail mathematics at the end of the year, you're still going to go on to the next grade. We're not going to worry about that. And it was just such a huge, I could just see the burden, fall off him, because he was just so worried about getting through passing it. And I'm not saying that he's not going to work hard to try and pass it, but at least he knows, that there's that terrible stress is not on him. And I don't think it's good for the children to have that. It's like they're being placed in a box that they need to do just those certain things in order to get through to the next year. And that's probably the thing that is the most upsetting for me, I think, when it comes to schooling. Yes, but again, just asking him, and him showing us that don't worry about that. He's got it all under control. Everything is under control. We don't have to worry about that. And yes, so that helped me a lot. So I don't know if you have anything else to share, Adina, about that.
Yeah, at the moment, my children are not, but they are in much lower grades.
Yes.
So at the moment, I do not struggle, but he did lead me to find some online resources also to help them. So that's been going well. So like I said, at the moment, it's still not that bad. But I think when they do start to struggle, I would also go the same, and just to relieve the burden on them, to not make it difficult for them to go through this and be under pressure.
Yes, definitely. So that was definitely a problem for us this year. So that's something that we had to face in homeschooling this year, because as with you, Adina, it's been fairly easy, up until now, up until grade 10, it's been fairly easy. And I think it's also because I could help them out with mathematics up until now, but now I'm like, the mathematics that they're doing now, it's not something that we did in school. I think maybe when I was in university, we did this type of mathematics. So definitely, I have to school myself, keep one lesson ahead, like homeschooling for him says, keep one lesson ahead, so that I'm able to assist him when he's having trouble with understanding the mathematics. But for that's about it. That was the only thing that really came up this year. And it's because, it's grade 10, it's a bit higher, but up until now, it's actually been fairly easy. Like I'm sure that you're experiencing as well. So yes, I think that's it. So is there anything else that you would like to add, Adina, about the homeschooling before we close this off?
No, there's nothing that is
It-
showing me now, but
Mm,
I think I can share to not just make, I think for the, like this whole fellowship is about also the burden, and not to make the burden too heavy on yourself or on your children,
mm,
and just follow his lead and
mm,
just depend on him to help you and give you the guidance and the wisdom to, and
mm.
for your children as well. I think that's the most important thing if you homeschool for him, is to always seek him and follow his lead on this. Yes.
Mm. Yes, and I think that one thing that you need to keep on coming back to and reminding yourself, and I don't think it's just for homeschooling, it's like with everything that we do, is that if it's not light and easy anymore, just go back and see where did I go wrong, maybe, or what can I do to make this light and easy for us. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be working hard, because it's always a good thing to instill in your children, is for them to work hard. Just like Erin said, my children would never, ever, ever
Yes.
come to me to say that I'm bored, I don't know what to do, because they would quickly get something to do. And we have a rule that during the day, they're not allowed to be in their beds. So that's actually something that I grew up with, that I instilled in my children. They're not allowed to lie around in their rooms during the day, because that tells me that they don't have anything to keep themselves busy with, which allows me to give them something to do. So you'll never see my children lounge around in their rooms. They're always playing somewhere, doing something, because I do keep them busy as well. That's something actually that I learned from my own mother, because you would never tell my mother that you're not sure, you don't have anything to do. I remember we would rather go outside and sit under a tree and do nothing than tell my mom that, that we are bored. So definitely keeping them busy and giving them good skills later on in life to work hard is one of the things, but not burdening them. There's a huge difference between the two,
Yes.
I believe, so definitely that. So I think that's it from us, ladies. Thank you so much for joining. We had a short podcast today because Erin wasn't here to give us all her wisdom. And between me and Adina, we only have a few things to share, and Erin has so much experience, like you've heard previously. We are actually just beginners compared to her. So ladies, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, I think that one of the key things that we need to remember is, who are we homeschooling for? Who are we doing this for? And what was that verse, Adina? I don't know if you can quickly think of it. The one that says, everything that we do, we need to do for him. Oh, here, Erin is back. Erin, are you back?
am back.
Are you with us?
I am.
Great.
I'm sorry that I told I told my son that's who was calling, and there was something that I needed to help him take care of.
Oh.
I said it's okay, because I tend to talk too much, so I'm sure that they're a bit relieved, to be able to have that. So anyway, are you winding down now? Have I missed
Yes.
the whole thing?
Because we actually missed you, right? Because there's no one to keep the conversation going.
Okay. Well, then so it's not so bad. That's
No.
wonderful. I had one more thing on the notes,
Yes,
if
please.
you wanted to do, because one of the things I wanted to is the false sense that they're learning everything because they are in school, And one of the
Yes.
things you were sharing about how the Lord encouraged you by seeing this teacher who says, "Oh, we're just passing them on, we'll just do the or like that." And well, they're
Yes.
doing that, we can do it. But one of the things that kept us going early on, especially as the children were getting into the higher grades, we used to, the company that we own, we used to work with the schools, and we would actually be in, we took over for, well, it's a long story, but we would be in the schools, and we would be set out where everybody's like passing, you know, in the hallways and stuff. And we were there at a table, and we started bringing the children too, some of them, not all of them, you know, that would be a group, but just we bring some to help us. And they would come up and be asking about it and asking, why aren't you in school? Or what school do you go to? Or something like that. They say, we're homeschooled. And they said, really? And a lot of them wanted it so much, you know. I wish my mom would homeschool me. I wish my mom would homeschool me. I'm feeling really badly for these children. But what kept us going is that we would be in the teacher's lounge. And there was this one time when this one came and said, well, you know, your son, he still doesn't know his multiplication tables. Now, this is junior high. Isn't this? Shouldn't they know that like third or fourth grade or something? So this is junior. He doesn't know any of them. And then she said, well, do any of your students? And she said, no. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do you mean? Like they didn't even know that, these basic things. And then another time I was at the post office, and the post office general who runs our, you know, each of the branches, you know, she became a good friend of mine. And she said, I'm just so, you know, I'm so glad that, you know, you homeschool your children. And she said, I get these irate parents that come in and yell at me because the children can't get their passport because they have to sign their passport, and they have to sign their passport in handwriting, in cursive. And they're not taught that in school anymore. Can you believe that? And so she said, don't yell at me, yell at your school, yell at your school board. But they have to do that because it's not a legal document unless they write. So these were not little kids. These were high schoolers that were going on a field trip, and they needed you know, they were going out of the country without their parents. And they couldn't write. So the fact is that you assume that they're going to learn this and they're going to learn that. They don't know how to, she would tell me, they don't know how to, you know, send a letter, you know? So I just took it upon myself that going throughout the day, you know, we were sharing the verse about when you go by the way, when you sit down, when you rise up, that's the way we're supposed to teach them. So when you're doing all your other things, don't have, and I think it's harder because you do have the curriculum, you have to do that, but it doesn't stop there. And parents who send their children to school, when they come home, they spend more time, you know, doing their homework with them and all these other things and trying to make up for it. But it's not just about taking them to sporting events or this, you know, these different things. It's the everyday things that make sure it's all a lesson so that they can see, how do you do this? How do you, you know, when you get groceries, looking at the different things, you know, I mean, and pricing them and just learning the everyday things so that when they're an adult, that's our job, is to prepare them to be adults. And so many, they didn't know anything. I mean, God bless my mother. I didn't know how to cook. She she never knew how to cook either. So she wouldn't be the one to teach me, you know, but I didn't know how to do a lot of things. And a lot of times they just don't, you know. So I think it's so important that we don't neglect what's going to make it, because if they go into adulthood and they know how to do all these things, adulthood will be much easier for them, and they'll be able to assimilate and focus on, if they're married, focus on their spouse, not I'm just learning these things. But we have all these hours and days and years. And I think, again, it's not something like you have to check off. It's just, you know, talking to who you're homeschooling for. I'm homeschooling for you. And schooling is not just education, or even the reading, writing, arithmetic, you know, spelling, history, geography, that sort of thing, you know. I mean, it's everything. Don't you agree that it needs to be more than that? And have you found that you're able to teach them more of those things, or have they not come up?
Yes. So there was definitely one thing, right? When I didn't know, when you were talking about pricing, I didn't know how to go in a shop and price something. I would just, you know, when I started shopping as an adult, I would just go and I would see, this looks cheaper than this, you know, and I would just buy it like that. And then when I started doing shopping with my mother-in-law, she showed me how to
Oh,
price things, how to see that, oh no, this isn't actually cheaper when you look at it, this way,
mm,
because when you buy two of these, it's actually cheaper buying it this way, things like that.
Mm.
And it was like an eye opener for me. I never realized it. And it's so
mm.
silly because it's something silly, right? It's not something that you would think about. But that was one of the first things I taught my children when we started homeschooling and we started going to the shops. I would show them, look here, look at the difference. Look at what it is per, per
Beautiful.
kilogram for us, like for us
And
it's
there's
0.6.
that older woman teaching the
Yes.
younger woman. I had that with the grandmother that I married in, and it wasn't like where this could even be almost a math thing. It's definitely a
Yes.
math thing. But I mean, I remember the first time I would ask my mother-in-law. My mother didn't know. I knew she didn't know because she didn't know. She grew up with maids and butlers, bless her heart. She just,
Yes.
a restaurant. That's where she is. I knew how to order, but
Yeah.
but not that. But then when I got married, I kept asking my mother-in-law, and she said, "Oh, you do wonderfully." I said, "I actually don't, I didn't know how to clean. And if you go to the workers at home, I didn't know those things." But when I asked the grandmother that married in, she was just like waiting, and she's like, I said, how do you, I said something about making coffee. She goes, okay, I'm glad you asked. First of all, we need to clean your coffee pot. I said, do we? She goes, you have vinegar. Yes. Okay. Well, now this is what you have to make sure. And I'm like, okay. And then she said, and these dish towels, these aren't dish towels. These are cloths for your hands. You need the dish towels. Like, well, I'll show you. I'll bring you some. I'm like, really? Yeah, these leave lint on your glasses. I'm like, yeah, they do. And so it was this wonderful thing, and that was before I knew, the promise of that didn't happen until I had, my daughter,
Yes.
fourth one, older women teaching younger women. But I had that. And I think it doesn't need to be a daughter-in-law or a mother as a mother. It needs to be all of us helping. If you see
Yes.
my mother used to mother any woman, mostly in mothering, not, she didn't tell them how to purchase things. She was a good shopper, though. She knew about savings and that sort of thing. She loved that. That was a fun thing for her. But anyway, about these kinds of things. But I think we need to mother a lot of all the women, because I think a lot of them, their mother either was working, a lot of working mothers, they didn't know that they should do it. I just think we should do that for one another, and help one another, right? And homeschooling moms too. I think that's beautiful. I'm going to stop talking so Adina has a chance to maybe share some.
Yes, I had to learn everything myself, when I moved out of the house and started to live on my own. But for me now, it's also when I take the children shopping, to show them, okay, this is special, so you can maybe get two for the price of one. And what I also, with their necessities and the stuff they need, is I will give them the money to do it themselves. Go and see what they want, what is the price, and then go and pay for it themselves.
That's good. That is very good, because I think a lot of times you just don't do that. And I know with like going into shops here, they have it where they punch in the numbers and then they try and they just give back the change, but they don't know how to make change anymore. And all of us know that. So that's something. And I hear my grandchildren know how to do that too. They can count back money, and our I don't know what your increments are, it's ours isn't like the euro, in tens. It can be complicated. I think the rand is a bit complicated too. At least
it's intense.
It's intense. Okay.
Yes,
it's just
yours
the
is a
name
bit
just threw me off.
right?
Yeah. I mean, everything was just so, I was always so shocked. Oh my gosh, it's so cheap. I'm trying to do the math in my head.
Yes.
But anyway, but ours is a little bit more complicated the way that it goes. But I forever, and my children would see it, that I'd see someone and they'd do it wrong. And I'd say, wait, can I interrupt you? You just added that 25-cent item, but you added as $25. You're overpaying. Can you just check? And the lady goes, what? I paid $25 more? And she looks at it. Oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, thank you so much. I'm like, gee, you got to watch these things, So I
Yes.
even taught my children, as you're going, especially if you have it, just round it up and add it up in your head, so it should be around this amount, so you're not overcharged. And don't just take your change, count it back, is doing those kinds of things. But I think it's just the everyday learning how to do stuff. But I think all of us, and I'm way older, they didn't think to teach, they just assume that they're going to learn this in school. And that's the thing, is because we are homeschooling for him, because these are our children, because we're better qualified, we're going to make sure that they learn these things. And I think just to be
Yes.
mindful of it, I think is huge.
Yeah. And also, when you were saying learning it in school, they do that, but they get the book knowledge. And that's not the same as the practical going there
That's
and doing
exactly.
it. And, so they
That's
read about it.
proven. Beautiful
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Beautiful point, Yvonne, because when I was going to dental school, I actually worked for what I wanted. I wanted to be in orthodontics. And because I was working in it at the same time, the practical, it made it so much easier. It just made so much sense.
Yes.
But, as everybody's struggling to pass the test, I just breezed through it because I had the practical, because you can't replace the practical. Just is so much. And you can have the book, and you can have that book knowledge, but definitely the practical goes so much farther. You understand it more, and so you have that opportunity with your children to actually live out some of these things that they're learning in books a lot of times. I think I just think there's so many benefits to homeschool. I just wish every Christian family, for sure, get them out, get them out of the school system. What country, the whole world is getting more evil, and I just care so much about the children, so I hope this series is going to help them.
Yes. And first of all, is the relationship that you have with your children when you homeschool them.
Oh my
It's such a
gosh.
closer relationship, I've really grown so much closer to my children since I've been homeschooling them. It's like we were actually living, now that I think of it, it was like we were living separate lives. And
It
now
is.
we're living one life together. If that makes sense. In my head, it all made sense when I said it now, but it was really, because I remember there was this one day, I don't know if I've told this to you before, but there was this one day when my son does programming, me and my daughter, we went to a little coffee shop. That was our routine. And we went to this coffee shop, and every week we would sit there, we would just have a coffee and chat and whatever. And then we would go and fetch my son, because it was not enough time to come back home. So we found a place near where he does his programming. And there was this person, this one person that worked there. I think he was like the owner or something like that. And the one day when we were paying, he said, "Is this your stepdaughter?" And I was taken aback for a second or two, because I was like, why would he assume it's my stepdaughter, And I said, no, it's my daughter. And then it was his turn to look at me like weirdly. He said, but you get along so well. And I didn't even ask him. I should have probably asked more, I should have probably just asked him, why would you say that? But we were leaving at that time. But as we were going out, me and my daughter were looking at each other, and we were thinking, what are we missing here? Does that mean that the families that he sees doesn't get along?
Yeah.
And that
And I
was really
didn't think
something that stuck with us.
stepmothers got along with their
Along with their
stepchildren. That's
daughters.
not the experience
Exactly.
that
No,
I'll tell you
me
that my
neither.
children have said, oh my gosh, I mean,
Me
at first
neither,
they were very respectful, because they knew that I wouldn't want them saying
Yes.
bad things or whatever.
Yes.
But then they just knew that they could just be honest and tell me how you feel. I'm not going to say, oh no, you
Yes.
can't do that. You can't say this, they
Mm.
knew, and they were
Yeah.
never mean about it, but they were like,
No.
no, So
Yes.
that's an odd thing. But
It's
yes, the
very odd.
relationship, that's the thing that I think we had talked about, being respectful. I think I was talking to you, Adina, or something about being, the children being respectful. I think that has, I think if my children had been in school, for sure, they would not be as respectful and honoring and never talk back, never roll their eyes, never get or anything like that, never challenging. It was always, they treated, we respect them as, the children. We weren't harsher, some people think, that, and some homeschool are just strict and mean, but that's their home life as well, whatever it is, but we were always very respectful, but they always were that way, and always very respectful of it. And you just pick that up from your peers, I think, more seeing it. Or my concern was always them seeing it on TV or movies or something, and if they even hinted towards that, they were just we're not doing that,
Yes.
we are not going to do that, because that's, you don't want to dishonor, you want to be respectful, no matter who it is. You're always kind, don't act like, we're just not, we're not doing that, but I never had to deal with that. And so and that, I think that's the thing, it's an invested time and effort, but you're going to have to pay one way or the other. And I want to pay with good investing, good time, all of that, rather than having to deal with something that could be lifelong, where your children are in trouble with, the law, or, all these different things that they could be around and pick up, or that bad attitude. I mean, there's just nothing that can compare, I'm just totally sold. I mean, and most of my children are that way, where it's like, no way, there's no other thing other than, there's no other option, I mean,
Good.
no, I think more churches, emphasizing, I think it comes down to each of their families. That's what it is. It's what you live is what you're going to encourage. So I'm really happy. And I'm so happy that so many of the ministers and those coming in are being introduced to it for the first time and just considering it. And that's the thing, if you're not 100% convinced, then just, have that conversation, with the Lord. You don't have that good of a relationship with him, just talk to God, if you don't believe in him, a lot don't. I was just sharing, I've been working on because we have the new book, Salvation Stories, but I just shared about that. If you don't believe in God, it's okay. Just start your conversation with that. I don't believe in you. I don't even believe you exist. But if you are real, then show me. And I want to have a relationship with you, and it'll happen. And it's a beautiful thing. So have that, because you shouldn't be doing this alone. Homeschooling for him, don't do it, make sure he's the main part of it. I mean, he's doing it, take it, his yoke definitely is the way to go, or it could be easily overwhelming, right?
Yes.
I think you both should agree with that.
Yes. And that's what we're going to end with today, because when you were talking about homeschooling for him and who are you homeschooling for, he led me to this beautiful verse that I want to end off with. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. So not for your government, not for your human masters. Work at it as you do for the Lord. And that's
make
why
sure you put that in the caption there. Make sure you put that verse. I love that. I love that one. Beautiful.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for joining, ladies. I'm excited to do another one of the podcasts with you. And we'll see you all next week, ladies. Thank you so much again for joining. I don't know if both of you have last words to share with us, and then we're going to sign off.
Just thank you. And thank you. I'm glad I got back in time to just add those few things. I would have been thinking about them all week.
Good. We're glad you came back. And you, Adina?
No, I don't have anything now, sorry.
Else to share. Okay, so on that word, we're going to close off, and then, ladies, we'll see you all next week. Love you so much. Have a wonderful week.